My name is Loon. I'm a music producer, recording mixing engineer, and guitarist based in the greater Boston area. Today I'm going to talk about modeling microphones, what role they play in my studio, and my thoughts on the two that I currently own. If you go on to enjoy this video, please hit the like button and subscribe. It really helps me out. Additionally, you can find me on other platforms at the links in the description where I do similar content in a shorter format. Modeling microphones have become a more valid alternative in the last few years to extensive mic collections that are typically expensive and occasionally hard to maintain. This is especially true in smaller studios or home studios like the one that I have. Several companies make these modeling microphones, including Slate Digital and Universal Audio, which are the two companies that are going to be represented in this video. Additionally, Antelope Audio also makes these kinds of microphones. An important disclaimer before we start this video. I was not provided either of these microphones. This is not a sponsored video. However, it's also not going to be a review. I'm not going to be going through every single spec, every single mic model. Instead, I want to evaluate both of them in comparison on their merits because I've acquired both of them and I want to know what their strengths are and what their weaknesses are, and then present them to you so that hopefully you can make the right decision if you decide to buy one of them. The first microphone is the Universal Audio Sphere LX. And now this microphone retails for $1,000 US, but I got it on a promotional deal when I bought my Apollo X4 interface, and so I did not pay that much. It's a large diaphragm condenser, and the software that's included includes many classic tube and non-tube condensers, as well as several other what they call hybrid models, which seems to mostly be dynamic microphones that they claim to be able to model with this. Interesting. This mic has a dual capsule design. It has a front and a back capsule, and therefore requires a proprietary 5-pin connector in order to function. Thankfully, it does come with the cable. The pickup pattern of the microphone switches all the way between omnidirectional and figure 8 and everything in between, which includes all of the cardioid subcategories. And you do that using the software, either the plugin within your DAW or the UAD DSP plugin, which you load in console. That same software is also where you choose the mic model and have a few different parameters that you can mess with, even within a particular model. In terms of accessories, the microphone comes with the necessary cable to use it, which has the 5-pin on one side and dual XLRs on the other side, one for the front capsule and one for the rear. And it also comes with the necessary clip to attach it to a mic stand. However, that clip is this. It's not a shock mount. We'll come back to that. And the other microphone that we're going to look at today is the Slate VMS ML-1. This is Slate's original modeling microphone, and as far as I know, this is the original modeling microphone, though I could be wrong about that. Like the Sphere, this is a large diaphragm condenser, and it retails for $800 US, but I bought it on sale last summer for $500. The software that comes with the main purchase of the microphone is the Classic Tubes pack, which includes classic tube condenser. This microphone has only a single capsule and is therefore locked to a cardioid pickup pattern. However, it does come with the shock mount. However, microphone specs only go so far. What really matters is how these two microphones sound. To test this, I set up a little comparison. The song that we're using today is Northeast Kingdom by the artist Olivia. This song's off of an EP that I produced, mixed, and actually also played guitar on. It released back in February. I'll leave a link to streaming it down in the description. I highly encourage you to go check it out. For this comparison, there are going to be two sets of guitar tracks. Both of them are using the original DI takes from the record, and they're both reamped through my Huizen-Kettner Black Spirit 200 and Laney 212 Cub Cab. The only changing variable is the microphones, and the microphones are both set up identically. I put some tape on the cabinet to make sure that they were lined up in the same place on the speaker, and the capsules were both 4 inches from the speaker. That's just the sweet spot that I found for this particular application. For the sake of comparison, the UA is going to be locked to cardioid mode, and both microphones are using a model of a Neumann U47. There's a similar situation on vocals. We're not using the original vocal takes for this, even though they were recorded with this Slate microphone. Instead, I brought Olivia in for an overdub session. We set both of these microphones up, and we did some takes of part of the song recording on both microphones at the same time. So when we're flipping between, you're hearing not the difference in takes, but in fact the difference between the way these two microphones sound. After recording in Logic, I applied some basic processing to all of the tracks, vocals and guitar, but the same to both microphones, and then I level matched the true peak output of each track using a Waves metering plugin. On screen during playback, there's going to be an A or a B. That's telling you which mic, A or B, you're hearing. I will tell you after the comparison which one is A and which one is B. So I want to talk about my conclusions before I tell you which microphone is which. To my ears, mic A just really didn't work for vocals the same way that mic B did. There was a really unpleasant mid-range resonance, and I think the top end wasn't quite as sparkly and clear. Some of that is, of course, down to processing, because I have the same processing on both tracks, and perhaps in this case it slightly benefited mic B. In a head-to-head comparison, with these pretty minimal EQ moves, I significantly preferred mic B. I didn't notice a huge difference on the guitar tracks, however. Now, there absolutely is a difference if you listen, and the guitars are actually somewhere where I think the mid-range quality of mic A actually is an aid against mic B, and so narrowly I would choose mic A for this particular context. But again, they're very close. So now I'm going to tell you which mic is which, but just for fun, leave your guesses down in the comments. Obviously, you've no reference to work off of, so this is just all for fun. Mic A is the Slate. Mic B was the Universal Audio. However, as I said earlier, the vocal tracks that actually ended up on the album were recorded with this Slate microphone, because I didn't own the Universal Audio at the time. And I'm actually pretty happy with how those vocal takes came out. It's also worth noting that we were using a different mic model, and so some of this could be down to the individual characteristics of the U47 model that Slate includes with the microphone. But more generally, I want to talk about the value proposition that each of these microphones present, and which one I would pick if I was going to buy one full price new today. The pros with the Universal Audio are that by default, and actually I think in total, it comes with more mic models than the Slate does. It also has a switchable pickup pattern, which significantly increases the versatility. The cons with the UA are that it does require you to have two interface inputs, because it has a front capsule and a back capsule, and it needs both of those cables plugged in order to function properly. It's also significantly better and easier to use on a Universal Audio interface using the console application than it is with an interface that's not made by Universal Audio or doesn't support being run through the console application, because then you have to put a plugin in the DAW. Now, I did that for this comparison just so that the screenshots of the plugin for UA and Slate would look the same, but generally speaking, I do run this through console when I'm using this, and it makes everything significantly easier. The other thing is that you don't need to go through the calibration process each time you use it if you're using a Universal Audio Apollo interface, which is a huge benefit for me because that can take time. However, to not have to calibrate it, you do need to own an Apollo interface, and they are not cheap. Now, the other con is that it is more expensive than the Slate, at least at base price, and it does not come with the shock mount, though to Universal Audio's credit, at no point during the tracking process for this did I think, wow, I really wish that microphone was on a shock mount. There wasn't any significant foot noise or movement noise or anything that would suggest that this does need to be isolated in that way. On the pro side of the Slate microphone, it is less expensive than the UA base price, unless you want the expansion packs, which I frankly don't think you need. It does come with a shock mount, which is a nice added measure of security, just if you're working with a vocalist who sometimes moves around. The cons are that by default it comes with fewer mic models, and in order to get more, you have to buy pretty expensive expansion packs. They're each $100 or $150, and there are 3 of them, I think. Therefore, it is actually more expensive in the long term if you want to pick up all of the different microphones. And then the final con is that it is only a cardioid pickup pattern, which severely limits the versatility, especially if you're working with a group of musicians who are all tracking in a room together and you want to get them all in one microphone. Having said all of that, if I had to buy one of these again today, which one would I choose? And it's a pretty close comparison because I think both of these microphones sound good in their own rights, even if they don't sound the same. Having said that, I would buy the Universal Audio again. I've made a commitment in this studio really to jump fully into the Universal Audio ecosystem. I use a lot of UAD plugins, I use an Apollo, and now I have this. Now, while there are valid criticisms of Universal Audio and how their products tend to work best only with other Universal Audio products, and also valid criticisms of their end-user license agreements, which there's plenty of discussion about elsewhere online, so I'm not going to cover it here. If you do really dive into their ecosystem, it really all does work very well together. It sounds good, all of this stuff is high quality, and for me, being able to just reach for something and know that it's going to work and know that it's going to sound good is a huge benefit. Having said that, for casual uses, I reach for the Slate far more often, purely because of the one cable operation. There's one cable out of the microphone, one cable into the interface, one preamp used. That's huge. And while there's no way for Universal Audio to do what they do with the Sphere without those two preamps, it is still often nice to only take up one preamp channel for what is ultimately going to end up as a mono output source. Having said that, these are my opinions, and you are entitled to yours based on what you've heard in this video and any experience you've had with these products in the past. I'd love to hear about them down in the comments, along with any questions you have for me about anything I've talked about in this video. While you're down there, please hit like and also the subscribe button if you'd like to see more. In the description also are a bunch of useful links, including links to these microphones. They're not affiliate links, they're just references. And also to Olivia, who very graciously gave her time to be featured in this video, as well as to my other social media platforms like Instagram. If you're interested in my services as a music producer or mixing engineer, you should reach out through my Instagram, either through DMs or the email that's linked to that page. Thank you all so much for watching, I hope you enjoyed, and I'll see you in the next one.
So the years fly by, people grow.